Since we entered the month of Nisan, there was a new moon on Thursday, and therefore there is a special month that is actually a paradoxical month because it's, like everything what Jews are doing is complicated. We have two New Years, so to speak. One is official in autumn, but one is actually much more important, significant in many circles, which is the Nisan, which is the first month. It's called the first month because it's leaving of the Egypt of Mitzrayim. So in less than 2 weeks there will be Pesach, which is very, very important. I think most important holiday in some respect. But the month Nisan brought me this idea that actually I would like to share. So although we are speaking today about ophiology, anthropology, we will, but I wanted to start with this nice off topics about Nisan. And another thing, thanks to you, my dear friends, my level of absorption into the topic of Serpent is growing. That's why actually we discussed this topic with Zev and with Natalie. I will do the topic, the presentations about Serpent because I have to get really into the topic because I'm writing a book about it, which I have to submit by the end of the autumn. So it is working. I must tell you, it's working because I woke up today with this idea about Gan Eden, and I had this just in front of me, all of those topics. So I wanted to share with you also what is my next hypothesis about what is there. And this will be those kind of fruits before the main dish today. So we are shifting the order of things. So, but first things first, before the dessert, is the review of our menu today. We will speak about Lynne Isbell. She's just genius, and this book really was one of the most groundbreaking things for me. She also has a sense of humor. So, although majority of the middle part of this book is hardcore science about neurology, and I read it, and I must say I understood maybe 20%, but I enjoyed. However, the introduction and the ending, the conclusions, is something that everyone probably without any prerequisites can grasp it. And she really has a sense of humor, so it's a really nice way of reading it. And another material that I'm using extensively is the analogies of the serpent as basis for symbolization. So we will go point by point, which is very well organized. Professor Wierciński was a very nicely organized person. He passed away more than 20 years ago, but I happened to be at his lectures, and he was actually internationally known professor in several fields, but mainly known in Poland. We'll speak also about serpent features and serpent within human beings, so all those things that are serpentine or ophiologistic, so to speak, if it's a neologism, and a bit of about sexuality here and there, because it's all connected. The major elements in our body which are symbolized in a serpent, let's say serpent notions are about sexuality, most of them, not everything, but most of them. But now it's the desert that I promised. So I woke up with this, believe me or not, just that I was thinking like this Gan, we are talking about those letters like Gimel and Nun and Eden also. So again, we spoke about it. What does it mean? Eden is Adinut, the delicacy of the Gan is like protectorate of the delicate life, the project of Hashem, and other gods are interfering in that, according at least to Goldberg. But it's hinted also in many, many books of Kabbalah. And we have also this hint in Sod ha-Nachash of Rabbi Gikatilla. But I was like thinking that Gimel, we know at the beginning, Serpent is also being symbolized by this Gimel because he's walking. He has his two legs. He's not Nun, but he can walk upright. At the same time, we know that there was letter Samech, which was around. He was actually the body that was surrounding the Gan Eden. But this inner one who was walking inside, and walking means also thinking, walking means self-awareness in the metaphorics of Hebrew lore. It means that this Gimel was this Nun, not Gimel, this serpent inside was associated more in, if we model it correctly, with this Havachivya, this inner aspect, the female aspect of Adam Kadmon. That this was actually this inner intelligent aspect of inside of Gan Eden. At the same time, Gan is also having this Nun Sofit, as if in the word Gan there is already this kind of premonition. He is walking upward, but he will fall, like the the prophecy that is self-fulfilling here in the very word. And the second thing I was thinking, okay, that's nice. It's just intuition. I'm just sharing your intuition of hermeneutics. And as such, I will probably include it in the book as an intuition only. But the second one is also the same. Eden. Okay, Eden is adinut, this word for delicate. But we spoke about Ain, that this is symbolizing 70 peoples. It's also the eye of the prophet Bilaam, who is related to the serpent. We will speak about it next week, about the prophecy and Nachash. And about Balaam is being said that he is the man of the open eye. And also is being said that he's going to consult with the serpents. The other translations are with the sorcerers, his prophecy. So he's really connected.
Oh,
Yeah. So Ain, we have Ain, then you have Dalet, and you have also Nun Sofit. Like Eden is also self-fulfilling prophecy, like as if there is hint about its potential to fall. Like you have the 70 peoples that the action with the entry of the serpent will cause its distribution into the blood, dam, dalet, and blood is nefesh. This is what Torah says. Yes, dam hu ha nefesh. This is what it said. Actually, this is very nice points to give a little bit of criticism to. Sorry, to those who are making allegorization or any kind of spiritualization or sublimation of the nefesh, saying that blood is just the basis of nefesh, that blood cannot be connected to nefesh, to the soul. No, Torah is very specific here. It's making identity about it. And
yes,
it is a vital soul. Blood is both the notion, both the basis, but when the blood is passing the oxygen and it's passing also vital nourishments, it's alive, it's being pumped by another soul, which is called ruach, which is actually the heartbeat. This is another soul. Then it is blood. It is within blood, and it's 99% of identity about it. And then we have also the Nun Sofit, the end, this fall into the manifold organisms, as we spoke about it last week and previous weeks. So this is the sharing. Let's move a little bit to Nissan. So Month Nissan, as you see, Month Nissan is very written in a very nice way. It's not only my notion. There are rabbis who noticed that Nissan has the word Nes inside. I will speak about it on the next slide, which is like the miracle of getting out of Egypt, because it was semi-miracle in the end, or even
yeah,
true miracle. But Nissan is a very nice because it actually is some sort of palindrome. You can read it backwards and forwards the same because it starts with Nun, ends with Nun. This
right. It's
is called
beautiful.
the first. Yeah, yes, exactly. But the difference is Nun Sofit and Nun, the first Nun. And all of
Yeah,
those letters, as we already know the symbolics of it from before 2 weeks, is actually all of them are serpents, but different serpents in different states. So we have first of all, one can relate to the 10 plagues. I don't know if it is a common knowledge, but interpretation and in literature, Jewish literature, Hebrew literature about the Pesach, about going out of Egypt, it is stated that all what is described in Torah about the 10 plagues, it didn't happen just day by day. It happened actually within whole year. So we have this symbolization of the Samech as a cycle of a year. That within this happen all the battle with the Egyptian gods, represented by Pharaoh, and eventually the 10th plague is total victory because it's killing of the firstborn, and as a Hebrew people, we can leave out Egypt. Another way of looking at it is that the whole whole story of getting out of Egypt starts with the transformation of the Nun, of the serpent, into the staff, which is symbolized in this Nun Sofit, the ending Nun. And the beauty about it is also, it's also connected what I also mentioned many times, that this passage of people of Israel through the separate waters of Sea of Reeds, mistakenly translated as the Red Sea. It's not the Red Sea, it is the Sea of Reeds, Yam Suf, but in Kabbalistic lore, it's also translated as a Yam Sof. And as we already know, the symbolism of the Yam and Yom, that this is actually symbolism of time. And everything about the waters in Torah is symbolizing time in different aspects. So Yam Suf means time of the end, or end of time, actually. The Sof means end or infinity in some way. This is like suspension of time in some ways. So all the symbolism is that the Jews, the Hebrews, are passing through the sea of end because they are becoming a meta-historical people. They are not perishing in some way in a history like Egyptian civilization perished, or Babylonian or Roman. No, the Hebrew from then on, they are beyond the history. They are not affected by the time in the long span. And the beauty here, what is also again and again, usually when there is a symbolism, there is aggregation of those different symbols aspects which are corroborating this kind of hermeneutics. And the first person who entered the sea of reeds, or sea of the time, was a person called Nachshon. It's actually a very whenever there is something dramatic in Torah, there are overtones from time to time, maybe not spotted in translations, about some sort of sense of humor. And Hashem, God, can be really a little bit, yes, smuggling this sense of humor. And we know that when we again read the Holy Torah, it said Moshe stands with the people, and people start to really be scared because there is Egyptian army coming, there is waters, and they are still nothing happens. And Moshe is like a little bit panicking from text he's seeing, and people are crying. They want to go back, and Hashem says, "Why are you crying at me? Matzak alaycha." He's like saying, "Just go, go. It's ready. Just you have to enter first, and the miracle will happen." And then, who was the bravest person? Is Nachshon, person who is called Nachshon, which means small, literally small serpent, and he's from the tribe Yehuda. He was the first one who was like this berserk. Okay, let's go. The waters are there, but I will go. And he actually went up until his neck was covered by waters, and then the waters spread. It's like, of course, there is a teaching from that. In order to have benefits from the miracles from the spiritual realm, you have to also invest a little bit. So you have to do something first, and then the miracles happen. So this is the ethical teaching behind. But anyway, the first person who enters and causes effectively the spreading of the sea and the passage of the people can happen is Nachshon. And then at the end, what is happening? This is some sort of paralyzed time. The time is suspended, and as a people, we just go through, and we managed to go to another realm, symbolically speaking. And then the Egyptian army is also following. But what happens? Moshe takes out his staff, which is the Nun Sofit, and he has actually giving a sign to the waters to come back. And the waters come back, And what is happening? The Egyptian army is perishing, and from then on, the Egyptian civilization is already at its waning movement, and now we don't have any. There is no continuity of this civilization. Whatever the Egyptian regime wants to say about it, there is no. It's gone long time ago. So this is the exposure about Nissan. Just wanted to share because this is the time appropriate for that. Okay, and this is a little bit also about the NES, and this is just a teaser. We'll speak about it on our last session about the hypothesis that goes beyond. The NES means both the miracle and the pole, like putting on a pole, putting up. So this is just the image of the copper serpent, and he was put al Hanes. So it's also a little bit pun about this month Nisan in the calendar way aspect, but here is about the transformation of the venomous power of the killing fiery serpents and reviving or restoring life of the serpent. If it's under some sort of control in state, being nechoshet, being made of copper, and also on a pole, on a nes, then it's something that is killing, is actually being used to revive. So we will speak about it in relation to Asclepius staff, and then a very nice theory that is
medicine
that I just developed, yeah, a bit based on what is already done in the field. Why actually Asclepius staff is a symbol of healing, and that's one of the hypotheses we'll speak about in our last session. Okay, so now let's go back to the prehistory of mankind, which is to primates. And Lynne Isbell, she's really genius. The snake detection theory. This is a pretty old book already, and the latest research about it is just corroborating it. So this SDT, snake detection theory, says in short that because of the serpents and because of the environmental evolutionary pressure from the serpents, the mammals and directly the primates, the primate monkeys, assuming that there is, of course, continuity from the monkeys to the men. So we are shifting our paradigm a little bit. It doesn't contradict the story of Eden. Maybe other day I can just explain how I see it. But for me, the science, the evolutionary science, doesn't have to be put into some creationistic ideas aside. When we speak about the text from the Torah, I think they are complementary, and there is no need to be a theologian one day and another day a scientist. No, you can integrate those things. So, assuming that this paradigm is also accepted, the pressure from the serpents, because it was the only predator that was not easy to be detected in the environment, especially in the tree-like environment, especially when in the trees there were very nice fruits, and those very nice fruits were giving a lot of very nice nutritious elements, and you could evolve generation after generation. It was very hard actually to withhold this wish to actually be in this environment for some of the species of the primates, of the monkeys and especially primates. And the serpent was also there because it could easily hunt the small monkeys and use them as a food. And it's all about the theory of Lynne Isbell is that why we see so well. Like if you look at the mammals generally speaking, they see better, some of them better than other organisms, and especially among the primates. Her claim is that those who were exposed, there was a pressure from they were living in the same environment as serpents. Their they seeing is much better than the others, and the whole concept is not only about seeing, it's also about, so first of all, sharpened vision is seeing the fruit of life, detecting the fruits when the smell, for example, is not so much already at its peak as a sense, and seeing the fruit, differentiating it from the background, and seeing also the serpent as the potential threat, and development of coordination of hand-eye. And this is something that was mind-blowing for me when I read this chapter about hand-eye coordination, which we know from the development of the human child, that this is just the revolution in the development of the child. Just immediately when there's hand-eye coordination is noticed at the children, they also just express the language outside. They have it within, according to a developmental psychologist earlier, but they start to express it together with expressing the hand-eye designative signs and hand-eye communication, which is great. Wow. Why? Because she's claiming that this act of designative warning, she's claiming, it's like when the primate group was saying snake, snake, and trying to warn others. This was the beginning of this translate it to our mythological vocabulary from the book of Genesis. It was exactly absorbing, or let's say acquiring this intelligence of Arum time, this intelligence of the higher order of designation of symbolic language, something more than other animals can have. The other animals, here I'm saying about humans that we are animals. They have languages, but they don't have symbolic language. Definitely not. And this is the difference between both humans and the rest of the animal kingdom. The other thing is that the highest level of fear among primates, and as we will see some other slides, it's also the same about the contemporary human societies. There are plenty of research about it. What is actually instigating the highest, the strongest fear? And it's all over the planet, snakes. Also among Eskimos, I'm sorry, Eskimos, it's derogatory. I'm apologizing, Eskimos, Inuits. Also among Inuits, also among people who do not have any experiences with serpents, because serpents do not live there. The point is, it's a very, very ancient fear of serpents. It's just, yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, so visually guided reaching and grasping, and Lynne Isbell is mentioning here, this is analogy to the Eve's plucking the fruit. Like we see the connection, yes. One of the most accepted hypotheses of the origin of primates suggests that visually guided reaching and grasping was responsible for separating primates from other mammals. And she gives plenty of research about it. It was also, the, how is it called? The thumb that is contrary to the other fingers. It's many other things like grasping thing, designating. Yeah. So we see that, as I mentioned, we see that this is really very important in the development of a child, and we follow this rule that ontogenesis follows the phylogenesis. What is actually happening within the species is also happening in a speed up form in the development of each member of the species. Yeah, healthy member of the species. So we see the development of those stages of evolutionary stages. If we observe our children thoroughly, we see those things also happening there. Lynne Isbell, those are parts taken from, of course, book of Lynne Isbell. She says connection between vision and reaching and grasping in primates developed instead in a subcortical part of the brain to give them highly responsible and automatic hand-eye coordination, a skill that would be especially used during travel in arboreal environments. So the best things are growing on the trees. It's pretty safe. However, the serpent is also having this habitat. So the temptation to be there is also full of risk that you will meet snakes there. And And Lynne Isbell is giving this analogy to the Eve's tree, the tree that she wants to take fruit, and the Serpent is saying, "Yes, take it, but after you take it, you may fall," as we know from the Gan Eden. So, what else is happening here? The wish to reach to the fruit, and Lynne Isbell is saying, "I will argue that a more singular preadaptation for acute vision and large brains, so development of our neocortex, comparing to the chimpanzees, comparing to the orangutans, so the closest friends we have in our evolutionary tree, we have neocortex that is growing, is first of all because it's a very nutritious diet. And she claims this is enjoyment of a diet of fruits and nectar, Eve's fruit. Of course, there are other theories what was responsible for growth of the neocortex, but definitely you have to have a good nutrition to evolve. When snakes, the serpent, appeared, a particular powerful selective pressure that favor expansion of the visual sense, only ancestral mammals having a diet of fruits or nectar from flowers in that arboreal milieu could afford to expand their visual systems. As such, expansions typically occurs at the cost of olfaction. So, olfaction means the sense of smell. The seeing took over from the smelling, which is something that is typical to the reptiles, to earlier stages in the evolution. And by seeing, and also especially in case of humans, you have stereoscopic seeing. The eyes are in the front, and you have actually a pretty vast angle of vision. And the vision is also full of colors. There is differentiation of the colors and differentiation of the shape, etc., etc. And only those mammals that ate odoriferous fruits, such as fruits and flowers, could afford to reduce their sense of smell and still find their food efficiently. So this is her claim. So they took the risk both to see the fruits, to see also the serpent out of the background in order to protect, in order to escape from it, in order to be also not decimated by serpents, different kinds, both venomous and also boa type, anaconda type, those who are really ancient, so to speak, very paleohistoric, the oldest evolutionary speaking serpents, which also pose a danger. What else? Development of neocortex, as we said, price paid for great I'm sorry. Great pain it was supposed to be. I'm sorry, I didn't spot this typo. In pay you shall labor. Yeah, we have this kind of curse, so to speak, to a woman and to a mankind, that man has to really work very hard to support his family, but also women will be giving birth in pain. So what is this pain caused by? It's caused because of the pretty big head compared to the vaginal trait, and it's not easy to give a birth to a child, whereas it's much easier for in comparison to the primates and to other animals also. The same is also about the developmental stages, that child, when born, will not succeed living alone. When abandoned, 99%, 99999, it will die. It will not also develop correctly. Whereas animals of almost all other species are, after a very short time, they can, in the very daring circumstances, they can survive. Human child cannot. Human child needs acculturation in order to develop, needs a presence of the other humans. And also, when there is no presence of other humans, we know this from these famous stories about the wolf children or monkey children, the children that were kidnapped, infants that were kidnapped or abandoned because of some tragedies in a forest. They didn't develop the speaking. They didn't develop the acquired levels of consciousness to become a human. And the paradox is, and no one knows actually why and how. The probability is the probable explanation is that there is a pressure uh, of the hormonal system and so on and so forth. That around the age 10 to 15 max, this child dies prematurely because not developing into a human means that you are also not able to get into the levels that a human can get, which is a paradox. It means how much the society and the development of the language expressed in a particular uh, in a child becoming a grown up is important. Otherwise, the human are not developing, and quite often they are dying very early. Okay, the story of Eve is actually quite similar to what I believe. This is again Lynne Isbell. The scientific evidence to what I believe the scientific evidence suggests for the origin of primates, including humans. We know today that pain during childbirth is a result of our extraordinarily big-headed babies. The price we pay for having brains with a large neocortex, because areas either directly or indirectly involved in vision occupy approximately half of neocortex. The behavior associated with vision and our large brains do indeed cause us to give birth in pain. Yeah, so this is her claim. As I'm saying, she is developing those assumptions throughout her book, and once you read the whole book, if you want, you will be much more convinced about it. And the beauty of it is that this theory is actually, as I mentioned, uh, getting more and more developed, and many other researchers just follow it. She just had a genial intuition. She went through, did the science underneath, and story really clicks. And then you have a complementary scholar scientific model that you can reapply to the narrative of the Torah and understand it better, and also understand in amazement how much Torah really have had beautiful intuitions in the first place. So fear of snakes is also interesting because she gives 36% in one of the research that people were very considered very afraid of serpents, of snakes. And at the same time, the fear of flying came at a distance 14. So I just give one research about it. Um, there are plenty of others, and they always give the serpents as the highest one. I also shared with you the other day this story about how I actually had my own experience with the serpent. It's just it has awakened all my I don't know what, really some instinctive reaction, and it was so strange. I am not very agile person per se these days, but I just jump really back 2 meters back, and before I knew what I'm doing. And I also had this preparation for a struggle posture, and also covering my front abdominal area, which is the most susceptible to any potential bite. It was just amazing because I realized what I'm doing only a couple of seconds later. So the highest level of awareness acted later than my instinctive consciousness. And yeah, it was fear, and also this fear to be bitten, and fear of and definitely automatic reaction, and considering maybe I should run away, maybe I should confront this serpent. Yeah. And each time I'm seeing serpents of different kinds, most of them are not poisonous. There is this kind of a little bit stepping back, and I just definitely I don't want to hurt them. I just want to assess the situation. And I must tell you also, serpent. Maybe that's why I'm so interested. In Israel, it happened to me 9 years ago. I was walking one of those nature paths. It's called Shvil Israel in Galilee. I was walking from Meron to Tzfat, So I'm walking from one Kabbalistic center to another one, but going through the natural path, not by bus. And there was this movement of a serpent that just, he was afraid of me. And I also jumped a little bit of awareness. It was early morning and I was alone on the path. And I landed so badly that I actually had some problems with the knee for half an hour. And then I could walk and it was fine. But years later, my doctor said, yes, this was actually responsible for my knee problem. So I was an avid runner before that. I was running long distances, and now I cannot because of my encounter of the serpent. So maybe this is my revenge to this situation. Just giving you an anecdote. Okay, and excuse me?
Can we say awe instead of
Yeah,
fear?
fear.
Because I love snakes,
I
and
understand.
I go towards them when I see them. And but I don't pet them, but there is a sense when they say the beginning of wisdom is fear. No, it is awe. You really take it because it is all around you. It is awesome, and which is more gives more credence to all that you are saying about them. In
I
the face of
understand.
creation and everything, there is this fear and trembling. But it's not
No,
fear in the sense of, oh, I'm personally afraid. It's bigger than that. Anyhow,
I, I do follow, and I think I understand what you have with this. Do you have the same, or have you encountered boa or anaconda, or really something that is coming like cobra with
cobras,
attacking mode?
yes, cobras. Cobras are wonderful, right? And
I
pythons,
I understand, but did you ever have you ever encountered? Because I encountered only once in my life when the serpent was really attacking me. It was this once moment.
right?
Otherwise, I am also having this respect, which I will call awe,
When I
but
say awe, I don't mean a small fear. I mean a big fear. But it's not always the fear. Yeah, it's not always the fear of I have to get away. It is a fear of trying to protect yourself, but it is bigger than fear. Never mind. I just know how I feel in the face of it. Pythons, rattlesnakes. A rattlesnake came at me once. I could hear it rattling. No, it is awesome. It is like the
that's
beginning of life and death. It's awesome, but it's also
that's
fascinating.
I am definitely full of, I can relate to what you say. However, if I would have to think about my fascination and also saving my life, I don't know if could suppress my instincts. Well, it's about a matter of training. I don't have a training of the serpent wielders, and there are many cultures that are doing it. Um, yeah, I
I
would
think
say that.
I'm probably more primitive than you are. My
Well,
my
it's not
brain
about
doesn't
that.
get in my way.
No, it's just the sensing of the true danger is actually calling for a specific response, I would say. So
Yes,
many other times I met serpents of different kinds, also the poisonous, the vipers, which I know, but
right,
nothing bigger than that. And they were approaching and then running away.
right,
Uh, so I didn't. I was just having this fear, but it was only once when it was in attacking position when I knew that it was just sudden, and I was afraid because I didn't spot it right away, and it just caught me by surprise. But I don't know if I would feel the same if there would be a boa or anaconda approaching towards me with this really attacking mode that she would consider me as a food. And yeah, I don't know. But all other serpents are usually running away from us. Yeah, that's the point. But then again, still people are dying because of the bites and also being,
yeah,
constricted by them.
yeah. I know, I know.
Um, let's think about it. Okay. Um, okay. So what do we have also here, if I may? Um, Isbell is also saying among predators, boas and pythons, constricting snakes were the first to evolve, and that they were Have you Nomi, have you met boas or pythons in
Yes,
a
Python. Yes,
in
yes.
a live environment or in zoo?
No, no, in the wilds.
In the wilds, you met them,
Yes, yes.
and they were trying to do some harm to you, or
No,
they were just
getting ready, getting
really
upright. Oh, they were, yeah. And I'll write to you about it.
okay. So you have a better training to wield the serpents, you know. Oh, okay,
It's not
but
training. It's okay. Anyhow,
that's nice. Okay, so you are among those who are not afraid. There was 36%, but there
I
was
okay. Awestruck,
yeah,
awestruck.
yeah.
I
So
freeze and I
yeah,
talk to them.
okay. So this is something like okay. So additional skills. All due respect. Uh,
You don't.
I will just continue this if
Sorry.
just to yeah, it's okay. Just to cover the topic. So uh, we have those constricting snakes that are first to evolve, as we know, and they also evolve in response to the presence of new mammals, yeah, which were a novel food source. So there was this environmental pressure. So the history that we have in this abridged form, which I would like to claim using this narrative from Lynne Isbell, for like retroactively using it for interpreting the material from the Torah, is actually happening for millions of years. And it's amazing because it's within ourselves. This what is hypothesis in an hypothesis of ancestral memory. It's within us. It's in our long-term memory. We all know about the already. There is a huge awareness about the passing of the trauma through the generation, and also without experiencing the trauma, to have exposure to the specific types of trauma because our first generation or second generation's ancestors they had the trauma and we didn't even know about it at all. And there is also a further hypothesis that actually those things, instinctual things, are actually known to us in acute situations. Like, for example, it happened to me with this viper. And I knew how to react to this viper, although I never before had a viper approaching to me. So the summary I gave you this YouTube here. There is a summary from very different scholar who is just giving those um, hypothesis of Lynne Isbell or very uh, plausible theories into some 5-minute narratives. So if you want, you can click on it later. Uh, so another argument by Lynne Isbell is that those uh, primates with poorer vision and smaller brains, they never coexisted with venomous snakes. So this is what she wants to pinpoint, that this is the factor, not anything else, or this is the predominant factor. However, excellent vision and large brains are found in those primates that have always coexisted with venomous snakes, venomous and also constricting. So that makes a really very interesting meeting point to the narrative in the Torah, and also the story with the Sod ha-Nachash Mishpatov Rav Gikatilla, how to deal with it, with the serpent, how it's actually causing all in the level of transferring this evolutionary bias into the symbolic nature, and also how to deal with the on so many levels. And it's not only metaphor and symbolism, it's actually organic feeling that there is something necessary connected between humans and serpents. So I just divided it very strange, I think. And I think I am 15 minutes before. I would propose that we have a break when we have a break, if you are fine, because we are just having this 45 minutes. This is my proposal. Uh, because now I would like to move to
Ah,
Wierciński's topics about actually those analogies within the serpent as he's behaving, the behavior of the serpent, and how it worked on the symbolism.
yeah.
So I think it's too early for a break. So we'll have it in 20 minutes somewhere in the middle. So a little bit of introduction to Wierciński. As I said, he passed away 23 years ago, and I happened to have a privilege to really to hear him live. He was visiting Krakow, and I was this student that knew that he's great. I understood half of what he's saying, but he was saying very interesting things always, and his books are brilliant. Only some of them are translated to English, like from the cultural anthropology, because he was writing a lot about the physical anthropology. He was actually writing about the pyramids of Egypt, and he was writing about very important articles about craniology, which is the science about the skulls, craniology of Slavonic tribes and also of Egypt, plenty of them. He was really this Renaissance type of scholar. Towards the end of his career, when he was already professor emeritus, he really was interested in gematria. Although he wasn't fluent in Hebrew, he really spent a lot of time in gematria. He just found it a very interesting tool for Bible hermeneutics. Not only, at some point it was dubious a bit, but still he influenced a lot of scholars, at least in Poland, but also in Mexico, and as far as I know, also in Egypt. And he also had this very nice meta project he never realized. He just noticed that Israel, the story of Israel, the travel to Promised Land, is all about annihilation of all the older cultures that are in Canaan, on the land of Israel, and every other that are fighting people of Israel should also either submit to this power or again be annihilated. The same is happening in another continent, in Aztecs. If you look at the mythologies of Aztec, they also had this promised land. They just eradicated the Mayan culture. They also have this ritual obsession about the sacrifice. In that case, in case of Aztecs, it was about a human sacrifice. In case of Israel, it was all about animals. However, we do have hints that there was a stage, probably there was a stage of human sacrifices. There are two hints about that. One is Akedat Yitzchak, which is the binding of the Yitzchak by Abraham, which of course is a text that says that something was in the past, but don't do it anymore. Don't sacrifice the human being anymore. But of course, when there is such a hint, it means that at some point, probably it was there was such a notion. Another point we have when there was a daughter of Iftach, he is promising to sacrifice. I mean, sacrifice in a way of taking life to something that he's meeting at his home, and his daughter. And eventually, Torah and Tanakh are not speaking so much about it, what happens there, and most of the interpretations say that she was just given to service in the temple or something like that. But what is stated there, it's stated there. It's food for thoughts. However, going back to our topic, Wierciński was also positively obsessed about this topic of Quetzalcoatl, this feather-like bird, and the notion of Yonah, which is like serpent bird figure. You know, the book of Jonah speaks about a person called Jonah, which is like means a dove, literally, that enters into the body of the serpent-like fish called Dag, and this fish is being, according to Midrash, is in the depths of the waters, is meeting with the bird inside of the serpent-like being is meeting another bigger serpent, Leviathan. This is not in the book; it's in the Midrash, saying that Yonah traveled in the body of the serpent-like fish and met the super serpent, Leviathan. And he also has to go back to send the prophecy to a place called Nineveh, which is also having a word nun as a serpent inside. So we will just analyze it as an off topic a little bit. but we will follow. I'm not reading all those things about Wierciński. What maybe what is important to state here is this Stanislav Grof perinatal matrices theory, which I just feel that we have to a little bit speak about it. This is this dubious, but maybe not super dubious because it has some application in the ethnology of religions. I was exposed to that at my university, at my MA studies, and I will speak about it in just a moment. It's important in order to also, from the perspective of the psychology of the birth and psychology of the trauma, and also shamanistic visions, which we'll speak about also a little bit next week, to understand the the visions of the serpent and vision of ideal place that we were, like uterus of the mother, that it might be interpreted in a symbolic realm of the as the Gan Eden, as our psychological feeling of Gan Eden, the garden, the protectorate of life. When we were in the uterus mother, we were not differentiated from the mother's body, and everything was fine till the moment of birth pangs. Okay, so a little bit moving forward, there are 19 of them, and I would just like to read them aside, each one next to the other. So on the left side, we have natural characteristics, analogies, and connotations. I find it very helpful what Wierciński did because he goes back to to the zoology, so to speak. He goes back, he looks at the serpent, and he thinks why we are having those plenty of different symbolizations across many cultures. And I want us to use them to understand deeper what is happening in every occurrence of the serpent in our topic. And at some point, we'll just summarize it also back to the Gikatilla work. But I just don't believe in the far-fetched theories without going back to the biology. You just have to go, in order to understand the symbolisms of why some specific animals are symbolizing specific things, go to the zoo and look at those animals and study them and a little bit be with them, because then you will understand back and also incorporate into your way of thinking and also spend some time with them. And then you can understand why and how. Why? Because our ancestors who developed those narratives, they spent much more time in nature than we, and we just have to catch up by studying them in depth. So there is extraordinary vitality with sharply varied mobility, with the ability to move very quickly among serpents. It's just noticed. And therefore, it works as on the right side, symbol of indestructible power and life energy, opposition of movement and rest. At the same time, we observe that serpents are killing the prey with a sudden movement and are gradually swallowing it, followed by visible passes through the digestive tract. And here, what we have on the side of the analogical associations, sudden death, and its accompanying convulsive movements passing through the birth canal, which is related to what we will speak soon about, those Stanislav Grof perinatal matrices. Passing through the underworld, devouring time, the conjunct eclipses, especially of the sun. That serpent has something to do with eating the sun. At the same time, he's also exposed to the sun. He likes to also, we'll see it in further analogies, likes to spend the time and get energy from the sun. So here I gave those comments in the yellowish, this orange, how Gikatilla calls him. He calls him a great Shamash Hagadol, the great servant of this. And Shamash and Shemesh are read the same way. It means in some way the serpent is connected to the sun energy, sometimes in a destructive aspect and sometimes just taking energy out of it. And when it's serving the life, it's positive. When it's not serving the life, well, it's this destructive aspect of destroying the and taking the life force to the underworld. Number 3, rounded and elongated body shape, entering burrows and crevices, stretching the body from a resting spiral. So they can be spiral, they can be straightening body, there can be super straight body. As we know, there is this possibility in some cobra species to put the pressure on the back of the head, and then it becomes this straighten as a staff. This is something that I found at least in 4 different texts. The last one was from John Currid about the ancient Egypt um, divinative practices, which is very helpful also to understand many things about those symbols and those stories about changing of the staff into serpent and vice versa. Probably at one point it was a trick, but what is Aaron and Moshe showing is not a trick, because their staffs ate the other serpents, and this was showing that there's something beyond the trick happening here, not just the trick of changing the mode of a live serpent, but just something more. And on the right side, we have phallic and coital associations, like possibility to be straight and possibility to be flex. So obvious phallic connotations, symbolization of erotic emotion and male temptation, transition of the time spiral into directional and linear time. So we have this cyclical time being, as I even mentioned today, it's being symbolized by the letter Samech in Uroboric form. At the same time, the linear time is symbolized by flowing of waters, but within the water there is this serpent, fish-like being that is also flowing linearly. And what is the combination, as we saw it also last week? Combination of the circle and the linearity is a spiral, which is also the aspect of seen both in symbolism and both in biology itself, the specific factor that is visible in the life forms, many life forms in the life what we know, yeah, the spiral and the Fibonacci, golden pattern, etc. So moving forward, now it's the time a little bit to expose you to this. If you don't know about it, if you know, you can raise your hand if you want. It was a paradox for me because I was really shocked about it. We were studying in our classes of ethnology of religions about the shamanistic visions. But there are visions of serpent eating alive, that the shaman during initiation is being suffocated, is being almost killed by in a hallucinogenic vision, or the vision under trance, cognitive trance, is being killed, and then he has to fight for his life in this vision, and then there is this feeling of victory, and he manages to escape all those completely almost unbearable states of pain, and then after this release from this all dangerous situations, there is a feeling of revival. So having said that, ethnologists of religion started to connect the dots with what Stanislav Grof was doing with the patients of schizophrenia. I didn't mention it here. I just don't want to speak too much about Stanislav Grof, but this is important for our symbolism of the Gan Eden, of the serpent, and the birth itself, according to Stanislav Grof, is repetition of the state, but in the reverse mode of, in acute situations, psychological acute situations, and any other traumas that are also on top of those acute situations. And the first acute situation is this matrix of the birth, are to be divided into 4 stages, and they follow as follows. Like this pre-labor state of this amniotic universe is actually being reworked the last one, because this is the stage of a transpersonal stage when we don't have differentiation, according to Grof, between us and environment. We are in this ocean of bliss within mother uterus, and we are part of the mother's life, and there is, it's usually pleasant as long as mother is healthy and not in distress, and we have enough space there to live, and but we don't have any sense of division of our body. We don't have our proprioception at all at this stage. We don't have also most probably our ego developed, etc. So this is this uh, according to Grof, if the mother is distressed, there can be early negative imprints, but there can be usually harmonious unity, oceanic bliss. And this is, let's say, Gan Eden in this connection. Then what happens? There are beginning of labor, which is like the pressure of the uterus. There are birth pangs. It's according to Grof the whole matrix of everything that we feel as in our life later on, as and we put it on this first primordial experience as the sense of being trapped, being in any kind of depressive killing mode, like suffocation. And there is also feeling that in visions of shamanic visions is being those visions are materialized in a way that there are serpents constricting and killing by suffocating, and they also pose an imminent threat. There is no escape. And Groth claims this is the situation during the labor when there is no serving yet open, and there is a sense of a trap. And the next birth perinatal matrix is passing through the narrow vaginal trade. It's like fighting for life, the struggle to reach out to the solution, and also it's being again in the shamanistic lore. What we studied here and there is being shown as the fight for life, and also being a serpent, being the serpent of life, and fighting to be freed. And there is this going out according from the birth channel, according to Grof, gives this fourth birth perinatal matrix, which is this feeling of freedom, feeling of getting the first breath, feeling of relief, but also relief after a huge struggle, and feeling alive, but not in a sense that there was this life of harmony in the oceanic bliss. And this oceanic bliss is something that is being missed. Like, this is the life after expulsion from Eden, but there is this kind of feeling of in a reworking of those stages, that there is this need to come back to the Gan Eden, to come back to some sort of a uterus, etc., etc. I am just giving it in a very abridged form, but what is important here, why I'm putting it here, it's because in the cultures all over the world, and I'm just not giving them because of scarcity of time. I'm not presenting you those, but please believe me, there are. The serpent notions is all there, and it's as if the narrative from the Torah, as being our own matrix for our own blueprint to understand the things from much advanced texts of Sod ha-Nachash or Mishpato of Rabbi Gikatilla, serves as connector to our own experience that is happening to almost all of us. Of course, there is this huge criticism about growth. What happens to those who are born through the cesarean? How is it called in English? Kaiser cesarean. Excuse me.
Cesarean.
Cesarean cut. Yes, and in German it's Kaiserschnitt. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I just forgot the English.
Aryeh,
Yes. Yes.
if you allow me to say a little bit of an anecdote, as
Sure,
I have
sure.
seen, as I have seen the stages that you describe here in this slide. As a young person, I was practicing a sport called speleology, which consists in visiting caves of different sizes and different forms, and you may find, obviously, in nature, you may find many different forms and also those caves normally in places where it's carbonate calcium massively, there are waters coming inside, forming little meadows and little lakes or big lakes also. And you can find from a cathedral, or you may find just a pit in which you have to get in like a serpent, right? But the thing is that in that sport, we practice the reverse process in terms of visiting the cave, And we had no idea of the comparison or the analogy you have described here. Of course, it was thought as a sport, right? But you would observe that some people, some young people, got blocked, totally blocked in the moment of entering there. It was a kind of psychic breakdown, and they just stood there, and the others went in to practice. And I can remember that when coming out of the cave after 18, 24, 36 hours within visiting the whole place, you had a sort of liberation, and I can recall a feeling of communication with the whole nature, as if the mountains, still being there millions of years, were something having some life with them, because at the end of the day, they were part of a creation that, and time was not relevant. It was like a plant, a plant made of minerals, but minerals that are alive, because those minerals are transforming themselves, water, chemicals, constantly. And I'll tell you, it's the most approximate thing that I have lived of an experience of communication with the whole nature. And I don't mean nature as an object of the science. I mean nature as something that is beyond that. I don't have words to describe it, but it's something that is far beyond that, and it's wonderful. I had once the occasion to talk to my mother, and I asked her how much time I was. She was laboring in my birth. And she told me that he spent 12 hours. She said that when I went out, I was almost a blue young child, because it took me a lot of time to go there. And obviously, I have no explanation for that. But the attraction I had for the caves, and still have, I mean, now I cannot practice, but I would like to go back, because those sensations are non-repeatable. It's a unique experience. And the attraction for the caves, I'm convinced it has something related to those natural experiences in birth, or it must be a connection. It must be a connection, because I'll tell you, to describe it, I don't have, say, psychological tools, it's like a communication with nature. And nature presents itself as something completely different of what you can observe in a laboratory or under the laws of mathematics or whatever you may call it. But it's just the anecdote. But the curious thing is that you describe exactly the 4 stages that you could go through when practicing such a sport. And the other thing is that you have to imitate the serpent.
Serpent movement. Oh, wow. Yes,
go out.
I can imagine that.
To go out. So you cannot have, you must not be afraid. You cannot be afraid of serpents, because at the time of going out, you have to spend, I don't know, 10 meters going through a pit in which you have to move like a serpent. It's absolutely necessary. So you cannot, and you really imitate the serpent. It's the first animal that comes to your mind when you are in front of the task of going out of the cave. It's a real thing. The serpent is a symbol that it's extraordinary.
It's very valuable, and I thank you so much for this sharing, because, well, from another angle, you just corroborated not only growth, but also the whole proposal to introduce it to the symbolism. But as I said, it's also part of the very deep experiences in acute states of cognitive trance of shamans, and is being analyzed in the ethnology of religions. But apparently you also experience something that is called flow, which is also semi-trance experience, when exposed to the passage of, either you will get stuck there, Valerie, or not, in this in a narrow path, or you may never go out. There is this reverence to the nature, and of course nature as the cave is also being ancient prehistoric symbol of the womb of the mother. Our relationship to the caves was, well, we have to read Levi Brul, Levi Strauss, all those all those interpreters of the of our knowledge about the paleohistory of the mankind, what we actually did in for hundreds of thousands of years with caves. We lived in caves much more than we live right now in those cubicles called houses, which separate us from the nature. In caves, we actually felt always this connection. Well, I don't have such an experience as you have, but I do have for smaller caves when I was passing through, and I remember that I had to pass through the narrow passage. My head went through, and then my chest hardly could, and I just understood I have to take out of the breath and go without breathing through this. And then I felt the weight of the whole mountain above me, and I understood I cannot take a breath in for this moment. I have 3-4 seconds to go through. If I take a breath in, I will get stuck and it will hurt, or I will just break my ribs. And yeah, my bigger colleagues couldn't go through. My much slimmer they went through. And it was very small caves, not something like you, like Valerie described. But yeah, cave is a mother womb, and it's not only symbolization; it's felt when you experience it. Thank you so much, Valerie, for sharing that. And that
May
is
I add
yes,
something to Valerie or speak to him? Valerie,
sure.
I've done that a few times in Israel. It's quite popular to go caving, and I've
Absolutely.
done that. And I've also done spelunking, which means you go down. You take a rope and go down into the depths, and you don't see where you are, but you know there's water beneath you, and you just have rocks on either side, and you have to hang on to the rocks. You had nothing under your feet and just go down. It is a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And then you
It's
come out and you lie on the earth and you think, oh, I'm out here. I'm on Mother Earth, is how it felt. She'll hold
Yeah.
me. It's not like descending into the bottomless pit of waters. It is
Yeah.
a fantastic experience, and it's awesome, and it's different than fear. It is born again, died again. And
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
way, I was in labor for 18 hours, a very
oh my
difficult
goodness.
giving birth. And I realized when I came out of it and saw my beautiful baby, she survived beautifully, that it was high. I mean, 18 is high.
Yeah, and 18 is high in Hebrew, of course.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
so
It's
I
a
couldn't
li
resist.
it's a little bit of a transformation you can feel, you may feel depending on the experience, but at personal level, I have to say that I wasn't one of those what they call big cathedrals that took us hours to go out. And when I was arriving upstairs, I had a feeling of communication with nature that I take some personal decisions at that time, and those decisions never went back. I mean, the energy that that experience brought into me moved me to make decisions that have lasted for a while. I'll tell it.
Right.
Yeah. You should contact also the students of growth. He probably passed away. But yeah, definitely, those things are important because they just make this integration of the psyche, and symbolizations are the part stemming from the biology, and the biology is connected to the so-called mysticism and metaphysics, definitely. And for the experiences which are called rite de passage in French, those initiations, and the
Right.
very big initiations which have a little bit remnants of this feeling during bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, or confirmation. It's not dangerous. And imagine that, for example, people in some African tribes who are taking ebogaine, the youths are taking they used to be. I don't know how it is right now, but ebogaine is a pretty hardcore hallucinogen. The 10% of those youngsters, they didn't survive, like physically, and it was known that this is a life threat. Some of you will not manage, and the same is happening it was happening in 19th century in Australian tribes, in Siberian tribes, and ethnology of religions claims that the initiations in order to become an adult were part of the culture also in the prehistory, as old as the human species. Why? Because it was reworking of the trauma of the like this kind of identity giving trauma of the birth. in many aspects, every one of us experience different traumas, but they are, according to Grove, referring all of them to some aspects of those matrices. And also we have tendencies also to rework them proactively. Like instead of running away, like you, Valerie, you were experiencing this by the sport, but this was something much bigger. You experienced Mother Nature back, and you know me too. Well, I will also speak happily and share about my contacts with the extremities of nature and how I also work with my feel of height and falling. But maybe let's move on a little bit. And because of our sharings, I think if everyone is fine, we can just continue and have maybe a break in 15 minutes. And I can also catch up with all the things. We can have a longer session today. If fine. Another break? No, here. So thank you so much that growth is really working for you so much. And I strongly recommend to read his books and also those of his students. It's amazing stuff. And especially, and then to juxtapose it with the shamanic visions of different traditions. The best, I would say, is Aranda tribes from Australia, the Siberian tribes. I also love the Mesoamerican material from different Amazonian tribes. It's just the beautiful thing is that there is invariant. Those things are happening all over the planet because we have the same body, more or less, and the same story about getting being born. Again, more or less, there are variants of invariants. So, going back to the serpent himself, number 4, he lives underground, on land, and in water. So he's really everywhere. He's not living only when there is ice. However, as I mentioned, Inuit, there was special research about Inuit culture. They have, first of all, they have symbolization of serpents, even though it's not visible in their current habitat. It's just a proof that they are they came there pretty late in the evolutionary form to the habitat of the ice when there are no serpents. But there is this notion that serpents, number 4 on the right side, is symbolizing the life on Earth everywhere, almost everywhere, and also underworld, also connecting the lower waters with any other habitat and bringing life and death. Like it's almost everywhere. Then again, on number 5, serpent possesses venom that causes high fever and possibly shock death. I was never stricken by the venom of the serpent, but I heard the stories of people by vipers, and they really said this is something different. Like this anaphylactic shock can be really, really something, and there is hallucinations involved. There is really this feeling not only of dying, just like being bitten by a, I don't know, dog with rabies, but something bigger than that. That there is this utterly feeling of being annihilated. Those, of course, those people who survived that. And I had some sharings from my friends, teenagers, from my teenage time, people who were bitten by the vipers in the woods. So if the person is bitten by to the ankle or to the lower body, there are huge chances by vipers to be alive. I don't know anything about black mamba and all this stuff. Probably no, there is no chance within the antidote being given very fast. So number 5, association with the fire of poisonous fluid. This is how the Torah speaks about the Nasashim Seraphim. Saraf is like seraphim, yeah, but Saraf means to burn something, the burning serpents. And again, there are also angels that are called Saraf. They are angelic forms that are snakish forms. And they are those serpents that I mentioned that were a place of or environment of inspiration for Bilam, for this anti-prophet, this contaminated prophet of the other nations in opposition to Moshe. So it is all also about the rapidity and intensity of the intoxication and hallucinogenic drinks and any kind of volatile substances that enter and they change the the consciousness. If it is in a high dosage, and also I don't know what we can speak about ayahuasca, which is of course not a one plant, but there are a combination of two plants, and this is like substance that is very intensive in its beginning, and I might speak about it. Yeah, I will speak about it next week about ayahuasca and or psilocybin or any other hallucinogenics or entheogens that are being used throughout all the planet to induce the very deep and strong trance states of mind. And there is always to this a symbolization of the serpent, like always, like an invariant, like 90% of people just relate that there is something serpentish about it. Like in the visions, the serpent is being seen. But again, I restrain myself from speaking about it in extenso right now because next week we'll speak about it. Again, number 6, cyclic life, mass emergence and mating season in spring, and gregarious entry into burrows and other hiding places in autumn. And that's it. And in winter, it looks like that there is no serpent, but he goes out and leaves again. So it was observed and then thought about like the climatic and vegetation of cycles, spring sowing, autumn harvest, related to the notions of fertility. So then again, I bring you the recollection of the god Phoenician and Ugaritic god Dagon, which was responsible for fish, sexuality, fertility of the harvests, and also sexual pleasure, from which we have the word, for example, or from the same root we have the word ledagdeg, to tease, to arouse, to give sexual pleasure, which evolved into the modern name for clitoris, which is dagdegan, like Dagon servitude, yeah, something like this. Yeah. And the beauty of this is that degen in Hebrew means a grain, and the shape of the clitoris is also a grain, and so on and so forth. And it means also fish and all this. It's just connected. The good symbols, as my teachers of symbolism, my studies said, the good symbols are rich, and usually they also encompass the contradictory meanings. A good symbol is unbreakable, but is rich in meanings. So there is this rebirth and life and extinction connection with astronomical calculation of time also, because it's about cycles of life, and you also transpose it to the zodiac. As I mentioned in the email, I just restrain myself from putting the symbols in nature that are serpent-like symbols, but just first thing you do when you have access to the night sky and you are not contaminated by sky glow in the cities, you see the Milky Way. And Milky Way is just this blueprint in a cosmos sphere about notion of the serpent of life. That's it. That was our imprint from ages. This was our best television ever for many, many, many hundreds of thousands of years, or even more. And we got lost a little bit from this TV. But I am avid, like say amateur astronomer myself. So whenever I have a possibility, I spend time on watching the night sky and watching the serpent of Milky Way. It's something primordial about it. I will also mention to you next week, most probably, the meditation about stars and Milky Way, which is Jewish. There is Jewish meditation in Isaiah about it, but not now, okay? 7, tile clutching in some species. So this uroboric aspect, yeah? Circular motion. For some reason they do it. It's not being defined if they are misleading that their tail is not part of their body. I think this is just those strange, cringe behaviors of some sort of teasing, self-teasing, whatever. But it is observed that they do it. So people saw it as this rebirth cycle of life, Ouroboros, time eating itself. Letter Samech, and the whole notion of Gan Eden, protection of life, stemmed from this idea. Okay, what is the next one? And of course, I'm sorry, I have to move my. Oh yes, this Samech and the borders of Gan Eden. Yeah, this in Jewish lore it evolved into this symbol. spiral pairing and bonding during the mating season. So most of you probably saw these movies about it, that the mating of serpents is something. This is really passionate mating, passionate sex of the serpent. And this is evolved into erotic literature and all these metaphors of entwining and being connected, etc. This stemming from the observation of the serpent particularly. And symbolization of channels of opposing force of energy, unifying opposites in movement, man and woman connecting in one circle and one connection, also through the serpentine aspects, because the genital parts are full of the serpent symbolism, and so on and so forth, and being entwined. Number 9, oviparity. There is something about serpents and birds, and we saw it in Yona, and we'll speak about it very soon here. There's something about Yona, and maybe after this slide we'll make a break, a very short one, and as I propose, we can extend, if you can, today a little bit longer. So oviparity. And serpents, like birds, they have this, most of the serpents are giving having children, so to speak, sorry, by through the eggs, not all of them, as far as I know. And this was spotted as something that has to do with the birds, especially aquatic birds, and female generativity. The world egg as a primordial ocean. Again, we can come back to this cave experience and also the uterus and etc. Symbols have layers. They just come back again and again in different layers, intensity, depending how we are. So it's not only about the symbol, it's how we are towards the symbol and how we find it in our experiences in nature or in vision. Is it a state of trance? Is it a state of hallucinogenic input? Or is it a state of deep meditation? Or is it a state of spellology? It's different intensities, but it's all about this coming back to the egg of life. And I added here this Yona dove, the serpent with beard features, and Quetzalcoatl. Wierciński saw those things connected. Number 10, locomotion in trees. So this is again connecting us to Lynne Isbell. The environment of the primates of our environment was also environment for the serpents. They can go and also hunt in the trees. And by this, on the right side, they strengthen vegetative associations and the idea of intertwining. There is something like an object. The tree is the pillar of life, and then the serpent is all around it. Serpent can move down and up and down on the spine. I am really restraining myself not to speak anything about Kundalini right now, but this association with the spine is just obvious, yeah. And the cosmic tree and the central nervous system with the sympathetic nervous system, it's spotted immediately. It's not only the science, it's just something that comes back and here and again in all the mythologies of all the cultures all over the world. The hissing, the sound of it is like hiss of burning damp branches, whispering, the passage of knowledge, esotericism. I didn't mention it here, but it's all this kind of idea, which I will a little bit relate to in the next slide, is there associated to the serpent. And this directional, number 12, undulating locomotion, winding rivers and streams, rippling water, spiraling ascension and descension, any kind of waverly motions. This is again and again associated to the serpent. What I also want a little bit hint at, the entry level of the intoxication by ayahuasca, psilocybin, LSD, and so on and so forth, DMT, is being, and also other trance methods that has nothing to do with the entheogens or psychedelics or hallucinogens, how you wish to call them. They speak about this first level is this entoptic. It's called entoptic vision. Like outside, if someone has open eyes, they report that they see on the real reality or the common consciousness level of perceiving reality, they start to see those serpentine of different colors, which are quite bright lights, and they build up the patterns that are looking like a serpent's body. And this is something that it is, and no one knows actually why, but we know that the expression in the culture of the ornaments from Greek culture, from Mesoamerica, all those labyrinths, all those kind of spirals and ornamentics, it's more and more in the when we integrate those different areas of our scholarship. There is growing and growing hypothesis saying this stems from the repeated usage of the cognitive trances stimulated by the hallucinogens, uh, as which is as old practice as the Paleolithic culture, which we may extend more than 500,000 years already, and this is growing and growing back. So 20 years ago, when I was learning those things, it was stated around 200, 300 years ago, and these days we find some clues about it probably happening even 500,000 years ago. So amazing, yeah? 500,000 years ago, practices that are supposed to be happening, comparing to our civilization of Neolith and post-Neolith, which is like 8,000, 10,000 years ago. Nice, yeah. There is a baggage of things that are happening in Paleolith versus what we have right now in those cultures of texts. And last point before the 5-minute break, which I would propose, regenerative abilities and skin shedding, which is like huge topic again. And again, it builds up this notion of reincarnation of the same life force, the idea of rebirth. Something that can shed skin, can renew, can be referring to those specific beings from the plenaria. I don't know. I will probably make a mistake. It's not family, but plenaria are those beings or organisms that can just regenerate. They are very pretty simple, but they can just do tricks like you cut it, and then there are two organisms out of it because they just developed up to some point those remaining parts of the any kind of nervous system which is there. So serpents are much more advanced in evolutionary trait, but this notion of shedding skin means that they are not mortal. Okay, so I propose that before relating it to the Yona, we can have a 5 minutes break and we meet at 7:40, okay? Is it fine?
Good.
Or you don't want to have a break? I can continue. No break?
It's okay.
I just let my dogs out, so they're okay.
All right. Elisa, Francesco, Paula, what do you think? No break or no?
For me, you can skip. I will have to drop. Sorry. So I will watch recording. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. No problem. Okay. So I assume Paula, if it's fine, and Francesco also mentioned. So let's continue because we have interesting spellologically related by the rebirth input. So yeah, let's do it. So what do we have about this hissing and those things with bird and serpent-like beings is exactly importantly stated in the book of Yonah. Sorry, where did I go? Yes, the book of Yonah. I don't know if you are aware, but there is a Midrash saying about book of Yonah, book of Jonah, that says Jonah never existed, and this is the only part of the Bible that speaks about something that is happening symbolically or allegorically or metaphorically. The story of the person called Dove that enters into fish and then he has to go to some place called Nineveh and he doesn't want. And when he goes there, I really skip many interesting things, but there is just give you a trait that I will speak about it more maybe next week. Yonah then has very great happiness when Hashem gives him a plant called kikayon. And this is the reason why you learn Hebrew, because Kikayon is not some kind of gourd or whatever. And I knew it as a child. I knew something is wrong. Why you are happy about such a thing? Okay, and there are statements that the Alta Simcha Gdola Me'al Rosh Shel Yonah, that the great joy rose on the above the head of the Yonah, because of this tzemach, this plant that was lehatzil rosho, that he was actually giving a shadow to his head. And then Yonah was super happy, and he was grumpy before that. And then Hashem takes it away, this plant, and he's kind of giving a little bit detox, so to speak. And he says, and Yonah is again grumpy because the sun is hitting his head, and he's not happy. He's after having nice trip. And why I'm saying using those words, because the word kikayon, first of all, this is the word what is there. It is a Greek word. It has this ending, Greek, and we find it. And this is the problem when the rabbis do not read the texts about the Eleusis mysteries, and people from the Greek-speaking world, they do not read in original Hebrew. So how did I find out about this kikayon, that this is actually a name for this elixir that was used in the Eleusis mysteries for Demeter goddess in order to introduce trance, and it is being stated for sure how, because when I read the story about the invention of LSD, this Hoffman was stating it, that this was something that this is called kikayon, and he also didn't know that this is actually in Hebrew in original about it. So Yonah is definitely having some sort of experience. We don't know exactly what was kikayon. There are hypotheses that it was actually psilocybin on this Claviceps purpurea, this natural LSD mushroom that grows on the wheat and was responsible for many panicking situations, like in history, most probably, and witchcraft persecutions, because people were sorry. I'm just making a light a little bit. Okay. Maybe like this. Not there. Okay. But this is off topic. Let's focus on Yonah. Yonah is the serpent, has a serpent inside, and also the consciousness of the letters of the name of tetragram of Yud Ke Vav Ke, as you see it. There is Nun inside and Yud Vav He. And his goal is also called Nineveh. Nineveh in Assyria is like double serpent, and also the name of the Hashem there. So you see those things only in original. And as a bird coming from spiritual world, he's swallowed by a fish. And Dag is also another name of a serpent, is serpent-like being. And within this one serpent, he re-enters the depths of the ocean. So again, going to some para-uterus environment. And what he's meeting the whole biology serpent, the Leviathan. This is just the abridgment of the Midrash on the book of Yonah, just to give you a hint about this mythology of feathered-like serpent. And you have also some statements about how actually serpent is being recognized with this hissing aspect of passing the wisdom about the rabbis. The rabbis who are teaching others. It's being said in Pirkei Avot, in the treatise from Talmud, Babylon Talmud, and their whisper is like a hiss of serpent, like whisper of wisdom of the rabbis is like a hiss of serpent. But you can see the ambivalence of this symbol when sometimes it's just attributed positively to the generally perceived positive figure of the rabbi. Next time one of you meets a rabbi, you can quote him that your hiss is like your whisper is like a hiss of serpent. And if he is wise, he will not be angry. And the statements from, for example, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, yes, if a serpent, Nachash, bites before the charm is whispered, what is the profit of that? There is this complex notion about Lachash and Nachash. Also phonetically, it's very similar stuff. And also Lenachesh, we'll speak about it next week, about the prophecy. Lenachesh, in modern Hebrew, to guess, to find a clue, to hint, but in a broader sense, Lenachesh, as we know it from Torah, when Yosef is saying that I am the one who menachesh, when he's using his cup to actually divinate, it's to divinate, also to prophesy. And because of the connection with the serpent, it's just obvious that this is a topic about communication and biology. And next week we will speak in extenso about, again, bringing back Yoshabach, and again bringing a little bit Goldberg, try to connect the dots, and also speak about prophecy as being symbolized by the feature that is believed to be a part of this serpent intelligence. Okay, moving forward, we have analogies and connotations, and the 14th one is fixed eyes fixed on the victim and a flawless leap towards it. So we have this notion of eye without the eyelid. Many serpents do not have eyelids, and it's like a feeling of hypnotizing, perfect vision. Hypnosis is knowing of the victim's mind and controlling. And I also believe that this is why in this primordial times when language actually developed, and also Hebrew language and any other proto-languages beyond, that the notion of Nachash and Lenachesh start. This is stemming from this eye. Why? Because the eye is also associated with the feature of this, as I mentioned already, the prophecy of Balaam, of the anti-prophet, of the very capable adversary, who's, when compared to Moshe, it's being said Balaam is greater than Moshe because he can conjure Hashem, which is just amazing. You have those statements in the Avodah Zarah tractate of Talmud, and also in Rav Gikatilla you have it, and many other sources. I think it's also in the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, and definitely also there is a mention about it in Zoharic literature. So there is a notion of Ain as a type of looking for the eye, type of prophesying with serpents, and it's also connected a bit to this opposition with how to prophesy without the eye, without the involving the serpents. And this is the feature of prophesying by hearing, which is what is Moshe doing mostly. So that's another story. Like, hearing is better, but more direct is this ocular prophecy. Number 15, inducing fear through violent, life-threatening aggression. So archetypical symbolization of fear and aggression, and also related to many of those birth matrices and symbolization, and also shamanic initiations that we mentioned earlier in relation to growth theory and ethnology of religions material all over the world. Agility of movements, number 16, deliberate escape or effective attack at the right moment. So either fight or flight. This is how serpent actually behave. And it's broad, the symbolization towards the notion of cunning wisdom. And this is again our arum, our feature that Torah speaks about, that is typical of Nachash, and then becomes also the feature of the man. Like analytical skills, growing even in civilization, we grew into speeding up our thoughts and also making it much faster, more precise, very skillfully. If you look at this, you can think that this is actually the serpent at its peak. The growth of the speed of, for example, our recent couple of years AI developments. I mean, this is surpassing our capabilities of taking us at speed, at least at speed, not at every feature, but at speed, definitely. By the way, I'll tell you the joke. When Yosha Bach is speaking about AIs, he says, we assume that maybe trees and plants are not intelligent. And he says, we don't know, but we assume that there is some sort of consciousness. Why? But they're just very slow. We have to analyze, for example, whole ecosystems for several years to see some sort of actually invariants that are happening. And this is what he calls software. And he says this is what ancient cultures called a soul of environment, soul of a tree, soul of the forest. So he says it's because it's slow, it appears to us that there is no consciousness. But he says, imagine that in 100 years, AIs will already be generative AIs, they're self-conscious, and they are analyzing humans. And one AI speaks to another, he says, you know what? I was looking at humans, they hardly move. I mean, they are just they do not move. And the other one says, no, you have to slow it down to 2 seconds. I know it's eternity, but you have to slow down for 2 seconds, and then you will see that they move a little bit, and maybe they are even conscious, those humans, you know. So this is the analogy that Bach is giving in order to understand that the time is the notion of relation between the intelligences and consciousnesses, but it doesn't mean that a small bacteria doesn't have consciousness. It has, but of different grade, of different level, according to this assumption by Bach. But we cannot communicate to this. It's from totally different world. Why? Because our lifespan is not relatable to the bacterial lifespan. And the same with trees. Well, trees may be living much longer than us, but we don't see those movements of communication appearing because they are extremely slow comparing to our nervous system, which is speed of sound. So AIs are speaking and prophesying in future much faster. That's the digression. Basking in the sun, number 17. Connection with solarity. Again, it's basking in the sun and also devouring of the sun. Going underworld, again, away from the sun, but also getting the energy from the sun by really staying on the rock and getting the energy from there, because serpents are not having constant temperature of their body like birds. Okay, and again, connection to Shamash, Shemesh, and servant and sun. And this is the last slide about the analogies and connotations, but we will speak about serpent within human beings. Actually, it's not that bad. I thought that we will overpass, so we really have a lot of time for discussion. So zoned body structure. This is interesting for me because I am fascinated about the scales. You know, they are hypnotic for me. The scales of the serpents and the whole notion that Torah speaks about it, and Midrashim on Torah speak that our remnants of the serpent's skin that we had before is our nails, and nails used to be covering whole body according to those. I will speak about it in the next slides. Before the expulsion from Gan Eden. And what is fascinating about nails is that it's one of the four elements within our body that actually has a potential to become a mirror, a natural mirror, like shining, also reflecting the light. The other is eyes and hair and skin. If you put an oily matter on it, it also can reflect the light. But nails are the best, which Nomi knows exactly what we do on Havdalah. Yes, we do this and we check our nails, which is looking like very strange, but we do it with the reflection of our light every week. And yeah, and it has something to do with looking at the mirror. That's another story. But zone body structure and this scaly, usually scaly body cover is related to the zoning in astronomical timekeeping, according to Wierciński, and zoning of the underworld. There are specific zones of the underworld that there is upper and lower body, there is belly and also outside, and also at the sides. That the body of a serpent is like a map. And also this network of rhomboid scales. It's idea of, again, going back to fertility, cultivate fields. Again, idea of Dagon. You have a fields of different crops, and they look like from above as if there are scales of the serpent. Many times you can see those things from the agriculture that they look like a part of the skin of the serpent. So it was noticed. And also then the fusion of the male and female, because the triangles connected in the rhomboid is like the triangle also of the pubic hair of both men and women, and this triangle of there's a penis and the testicles, and in a woman is a triangle usually in a rhomboid form. This all was spotted as a connector, that the serpent is having this both. For me, it's also important that this is like multiplicity. There is a one organism. Serpent has a body of plenty of scales, as if he is the only one living, and the scale is each and every organism within him as a life force. So this is something that was interesting to me as a symbolization too. And as I said, entoptic hallucinogenic serpent patterns, like those patterns that are appearing on the entry stage of almost every experience reported of people who got, as I mentioned, LSD, ayahuasca, psilocybin, or any throughout any other technique, trance techniques. So this is at the entry level. There is this pattern being visible, and then the deeper stages of the cognitive trance or hallucination is appearing. Anyway, it's something that is actually interesting. Why? And there are very vivid colors of those entoptic hallucinogenic serpent patterns, and they are later on taken out and placed into the culture, into those patterns of rhomboids and spirals and all these ionic forms and Doric forms and all those patterns from Mesoameric that people are fascinated with, and the same you have ornamentics in arabesques and etc. etc. More people are saying like those who are analyzing the patterns within the cultures all over the planet, they speak that they are stemming those patterns are stemming from the visions of some sort of shamanic trances and analogical experiences of different levels of consciousness. And the last one, occurrence of horned viper species. And this is very big stuff because you have immediate representations for example, moon god, which these horns of the vipers or other species are alike the waxing after the new moon. And of course, you have in Egypt plenty of those uraeuses. Uraeus is the serpent above on a head, which is also a sign of the wisdom and many other things also, but not now. We will speak about it, about the iconography, I think, in 2 meetings or 3 meetings. And I also have some materials from Egypt when I was last year there in the Gizeh Museum. Plenty of those, plenty. Amazing that it's stemming directly from the serpent itself. So cattle horns, again, fertility. So connection with the Neolithic culture of or Mesolithic culture of having actually some cattles. The crescent moon, again, the cycle of the female sexual cycle of female sexuality. Yes, menstruation as also in time-wise connected, and ovulation connected to the cycle of the moon and related to this to the serpent. The crown, the wisdom of the women stemming from the moon aspects. And also Wierciński claims here that this is in connection with the underworld, the riches containing the ring. How he connected it probably through the crown, I guess. But this gives us exactly the connection to the notion of mining the copper, which Nissim Amsalak claims. I will speak about him. Nissim Amsalak claims that it has something to do with the cult of the serpent related to the Hashem, to Yudke Vavke. So, I want to speak in 2 more slides about serpent within human, but it's just open field. I don't think that I just managed to place all of it. But let's start with umbilical cords. The first thing, what is the connector between mom and a child? The serpent. The serpent is there. The spine, which all yoga kundalini topic about the serpent that is at the lowest chakra and going through the spine. If the spine is being moving, the serpent is out of the control. But if the spine is into asana, it's being placed in under the control, under some rigor, and then the energy of the serpent goes up according to the yoga system, yoga kundalini system, up to the highest chakra, which is Sahasrara, which is related to phalanx, yeah, as far as I remember. How is it connected? And again, spine is also working in this what is called toxicology. This is again, I mentioned about it last week, I guess. My used to be friend Dominic Strelec, he mentioned to me about it, that toxos in Greek means a bow. So spine can be like a bow, and it can be also straightened up when it's not being under the pressure of the, how is it called, this part? I don't know. When you shoot from the bow, yeah, you make it bowed, and then you can make it straight when it shoots. So he also had this idea that there are techniques that are about controlling the spine and keeping it straight. So it's all, let's say, in short, for the sake of the clarity and abridge it, all the asana type of meditations, when the straightness of the spine is being required, and also all this, let's say, dynamic ecstatic practices with intoxications, so toxos, intoxications, to make your spine being bowed in a different ways, like swaying, and so any kind of ecstatic trances, like Dionysian type of connecting to the any kind of spirituality. Veins are arteries, and this is something. Wow, 1 week ago I had this meeting with beautiful people about Abulafia, and there was this lady that says in the color of the red, purple, and the blue purple that Rabbi Abulafia is being obsessed about, but all the Torah is also obsessed about those two colors, gold mainly, and those two colors, the red purple and blue purple. And in Hebrew, it's Techelet and Argaman. By the way, Argaman in Sanskrit is Ragaman. So there is a proof that Sanskrit and Hebrew lore was actually, those cultures were transferring the objects that were giving the specific, very intensive color, like indigo, and maybe something that is connected to what is on the flag of Israel is blue, purple, and red purple. But if you look at veins or arteries, they're having those things also. It's like an organism build up. And these are like serpents inside, all the sinews, all those linear patterns. They are like serpents within the body, and they are also what? Transferring the nefesh, the blood. Nefesh, which is also, as we claim, the serpent placed into each of the organism. After there was one cell, it started to divide. The serpent is there through the something that's called blood. Of course, I'm not claiming every organism has a blood. I'm saying that there is some sort of a part in our body that is responsible for transferring and moving of the energy that is life energy, which would be this nefesh. In case of humans, it would be blood. And again, there is no maybe room for that so much about to speaking about in relation to Goldberg and Jacob Milgrom, the theory that Mishkan, the place when Shekhinah, the God's presence, was descending, and this Mishkan was based on those colors and all different organic materials that were building up the house of God. Well, there is the theory by both of them independently that it was some sort of an organism, like some sort of organism that was protective and also like being this kind of war machinery against all other biological warfare against hostile peoples and their gods. That's another story. Just wanted to relate that this is very serpentine in itself when you look at it on the human body. Then again, intestines, the digestion trait. You eat something and it goes through the serpent down, and what is not needed, it goes through the atmosphere. But the whole concept is that we have a serpent within, which is the digestion trait. I will speak about it more in our last session. I just don't want to betray what is the concept there, but it has something to do with eating and being eaten, the cycle of digestion in a life forms and also within the organism. Then, as I mentioned, we have skin and nails, and we have this Midrash speaking about that the bodies before the expulsion of Adam Kadmon was covered with tziporen. Tziporen in Hebrew it means the the nail, and tzipornaim means nails. And this is a scalish substance. This is like something that we don't have, but serpents have all of them covered. And at some specific ritual situations, like when Moshe was having first and close encounter of the highest degree with Hashem, there was some sort of effect after that, that his face was covered with kikaran or panav, that his face was actually shining. So shining, it can mean also karan, it can also mean, it's actually very ancient root because it's something like kornua, keren, kornua, horn. This is the same root, which shows that Semitic languages and Proto-Indo-European and Indo-European languages, they come from the common source at some point. And this means also something that is being covered with a scalish substance or horns, or also giving a ray of light. That's why there is this metaphorics that horns are actually also something like rays of light. And also in many cultures, they are the symbol of glow, of wisdom, and also of enlightenment. Going back to the skin and anointment, Mashiach, what does it mean Mashiach? It means someone who is covered, anointed one, the one who is covered with oil. By the way, this oil specific for Mashiach, the Kohen, is Kohen HaMashiach. It's in the last Torah parasha. For the last week, we have this statement also. It's being mentioned that this is the place of, the skin is the place of absorption of a specific oil. By the way, it contains also Kane Bosem, this oil. It's different oil, but and Kane Bosem there is hypothesis that this is cannabis. So through their skin, they were also absorbing probably some psychoactive substances. That's one hypothesis. It's not being proven. It can be that this is wrong etymology, but it's very, very tempting to say that Kane Bosem, which is stated in Torah, is cannabis. And Mashiach is also someone who encompasses all states, possible states of consciousness, also those who are activated by what is in nature available. And tongue of a man is something like a serpent, which I'm using already for more than 2 hours, and split tongue of serpent, which is for, again, to olfactorily check what is there in environment, and also gets the vibrations. 2 different ways of getting in touch with environment. Humans need to use this one in order to talk, and serpents, they communicate by the split one. That's another story with many midrashim why this tongue by serpents is split, but there is this kind of representation here and there that in human being there is a serpent by speaking, again by showing the intelligence of Arum type. And long hair, when anointed, are, as I mentioned, 4 type of natural mirrors in men of serpentine type. And especially when there is a special braiding them, they can look like serpents, and in many cultures they are being also, well, my kids like Monsters Incorporated, you know, this maybe cartoon by Pixar. There is this lady, she has, instead of the hair, she has those serpents like, and you know, and first associations that come to my mind. And serpent with human, again, we spoke about penis as a serpent and a staff, flex and in erected form. Ejaculation and spurting of the demon. Some cobras, some other animals, some other serpents, they are just doing it. And it was also noticed that this is something like, there is some, well, female body is different after becoming pregnant. The whole type of being is different. And I can theorize here, but ladies, you can just, if you were, and you know, you mentioned, yes, of course, your experiences, it's different. And it is some sort of a, such a great change in the human body that it was analogized by being bitten by the serpent, and also the first encounter in the Gan Eden of Nachash from externality with the female. is being explained via metaphor of sexual intercourse. And then we have placenta. Not only man has a serpent typically associated to the sexuality, but female has, a woman has a placenta, not placenta, sorry, uterus and menstrual shedding of the skin. And I just skipped the placenta. The child also has it. The serpent, the first shedding of the skin is noticed during the birth. Like a child is as if a serpent. And the shedding, the placenta is in many cultures treated as a holy one. It has to be placed into special grave. It cannot be just thrown away. It's called the first twin, that it also has some sort of a soul, etc., etc. And as I mentioned in Hebrew regarding the uterus is a serpent within female, and uterus, which is rechem in Hebrew, has the numerical value of 248. And this is really something amazing. This is a generative form of giving life. And the same 248 is associated in a male organism, the human, in a male human organism, is associated with the 248 traditional division to the different members of the body of the male. And because woman has more, it's not this number, but I think that this is the pun about uterus. That female is more than man in that we don't have, as a males, we don't have the generative power of emulating the life force, whereas female have it, and uterus is giving life, and participating in his life is something typically associated with women, and we can just theorize. We have nothing to do about knowing it from our experience. And embryo and Ouroboros. Embryo is like connected in the spiral form, like the head is together with the legs, and as we see the development of the embryo, it is having some sort of spiralish forms, and it's like evolution through opening. The same is repeated also in the flowers, in many other plants, but focusing right now on a human. And regarding female again, I was thinking, and it is also appearing here and there in the mythological artifacts of all different cultures of this planet. Female body has a structure of a wave, and it's as if emulating this special connection, serpent's waving movements, and also showing this kind of potential special connection to the serpents. Like female have more connection to the serpent than male, which of course in the Midrashim regarding the story of the serpent from Gan Eden, it's being accentuated. The eyes, lack of eyelid and the human eyes seeing it, and also the eyes of the serpent that can also have this contraction of the pupil into this line, into this one staff-like, very narrow pupil. But idea of eyelid in a serpent, and idea of also focusing the eye, and idea of the inner eye, etc. This is kind of related as a serpent aspect within the human body. And last but not the least, from my proposal, bodies of female and male as one serpent, sorry, it was supposed to be female and male as underneath the one serpent spell. I mean, sexual attraction, the force of life that makes this programming within not only humans but all of the beings to participate in the procreation. It is as a program of the serpent that is affecting the unity of the female and male. And then during the intercourse, female and male are serpent for a moment. And there is this climax of semi-prophetic, so to speak, experience that we can relate to a human orgasm. And this is what unifies the act that they want to be repeated, usually, if pleasurable, and wants to be also connected at some point with the procreation, which is quite hard to suppress. If suppress, it goes through the sublimation, and there is another expression of be fruitful and multiply. I think I was very fruitful and multiplied today, talking and
You
talking.
were.
But you guys were also, and I thank you so much for this. And the forum is yours if we want, but I will dream probably about this speleology, guys. It's amazing. You spoke about it, Valerie, the other day with the Abulafian meetings. Yeah, I will share you with something about my evolution of thinking about all those religious themes. When I was this teenager and started to get interested in that, I really was under influence that you have to separate everything that is mystical from the biological. That it cannot be worldly. It has to be something like up there. And then I understood that this is a trap because all we have is our human body, and we start with it, and there is nothing wrong about it. And the human body contains all the souls. Maybe there are definitely higher souls, higher and states of consciousness that are not connected to the body. But this is the departure point of every symbolization and coming back point, the end point. But the story is to us to reveal it through all the literatures we get through our eyes, through our speaking, through absorption of wisdom by hearing. And I was blessed around being 17 to almost learn by heart The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake. It really saved me from division. And he said that the soul is just, the body is just part of the soul within, visible in five senses, that all is unified. And I started to really think, yes, this is the path. So here I am. At this stage, here I am, and I just give you a proposal to meditate about it. Okay.
The truth is that when we study mathematics, for instance, we are taught about Newton, Leibniz, infinitesimal calculus, etc. But we are never told about the other aspects of their awareness in other connections that those thinkers had with nature. It's not normally explained. You have to learn it in other academic domains. And I think our culture has a little bit of difficulty in presenting those in a coherent way, which doesn't deny scientific history, but that is able to collect the whole living form of those geniuses, because at the end of the day, they were creators in many directions, right? And I think that the division of academic fields, still we pay a price for it.
Yeah, but there is beauty about integrating it. We enter into the division and specializations and the trap of it that I cannot relate to the really hard and serious level of sciences of some specializations. But there is also those people like Yosha Bach, and I also try to be a part of this current, but in a serious way, not to try to make connection everything with everything, because then you enter into the cheap new age. But if you have some rigor, academical, but freeway thinking, academical rigor, and also you learn the rules of how to navigate, that you are actually not pretending, not making up things, but you are trying to also differentiate between hypotheses and theorems, and you have colleagues and you are interested in other areas, then you can integrate it quite well. And it's all about being fed by being interested what is in others' garden. Just mathematicians should study, should read mythologies, and vice versa. And people from humanistics should really take the rigor from computer sciences. And I think the key is to be interested in the varieties. At some point, things just come up, and if one is patient and curious, things integrate. And things at some point give the invariants, the patterns, but one has to be patient for that, and not to try to be too early finding that if something is similar here and there, I am building up the theory and making a professorship and getting a tenure out of it, because this is wrong motivation. The right motivation is to be patient and study everything.
I think that we as humans, we have an impulse, a tribe, no, like Freud said about, in the direction of symbols, you know. Symbols cannot be only just sublimations of things that I think that they have their own life, and we have a specific communication through them, expanding in different, maybe religious experience. I don't know. Every person, we don't have a civilization that has, you know, a single religious practice, of course. But
symbol. The word symbol means thrown together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. The antonym for symbol is devil. You know that?
Devil. Right.
Yeah.
Devil.
Why?
Devil.
Because it's, and actually I have to share with you my first, I mean, very amateur paper that I was just breathing it out. It was Devil and a Science. It was very short. I have to translate it once because I still, when I read it sometimes again, it's not bad. It's completely amateur. I was a first year student of the studies of religions, but I had to put out something. I was after a whole year of reading things and absorbing, and I had to put it out. There was a professor of mathematics who was very interesting, also in Goldberg and also in Wierciński, Professor Krzysztof Morin, and he wrote something inspirational for me exactly about symbol. So Greek symbol from symbalein, as you said, throw together, yeah. But what is the antonym? Diabalein, yeah, diabolos against symbolos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to divide things and to feel that things are not connected, yes, and to be in a desperate and a kind of depressive world that you don't see any influence on anything because you don't have impact and you don't see the patterns of connectivity. Whereas symbol is this always giving you health because you, through awareness of combining things together, you at least can manage better crises because you understand, this is connected with that, this, that. It gives me symbolic way of thinking.
Yeah.
Whereas diabolic is giving you this, I am nothing, I have no impact. Yeah, so this is a nice observation, diabalen and symbalen, and yeah, learning Attigionic Greek dialects at the high school was also a good thing. I even had my graduation from Greek. I forgot most of it, but I still can appreciate it in passive forms. And you know that you
Devil.
also devil against symbol.
Also Deus. Devil
Deus
and
is yeah, but Deus is like rather Zeus. It's from it's
before that, before Greek, Deus.
Yeah.
And
Deus
devil.
is from
The same
Zeus.
word. It's the same
Okay.
word.
Yeah, that so some would put a polemics about it, but devil is definitely coming from diabolos because it's diavolos, and then you have devil, so it's stemming from diabalan, the one who is causing the divisions. Yeah, and Satan is also like opponent. Yes, if there is a holistic concept of, as we try to also navigate through this myth of Gan Eden, like it was supposed to be one unifying life project within which all the potential consciousnesses would evolve, but there would not be mortality or sexuality. There would be just one organism that would have it all. So what the devilish, and this would be symbolic project of Hashem, so satanistic or devilish would be to oppose it and to divide it, to cause the division, which according to Goldberg, according to Bach, according to also Torah itself, looks like this is the life we are part of. We have to be born and we have to die, but we can also transfer some parts of it, of our existence, into immortality mode by sharing. So trying to be symbolic beyond our incarnation. That's our hope. That's why we are meeting here on those geographies.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And